You check your phone. No reply. Nothing dramatic has happened. No argument. No obvious warning sign. But somehow, your body reacts like the room just got colder. Your chest tightens a little. Your thoughts speed up. One part of you says, maybe they're just busy. But another part says, no, something is wrong. And before you know it, your mind is building a whole movie from one tiny detail. A delayed text becomes rejection. A weird tone becomes disappointment. A quiet meeting becomes, I'm about to get fired. A small mistake becomes, this is going to ruin everything. Here's the strange part. Sometimes your life is objectively fine, but your brain still acts like danger is hiding behind the next corner. And if that sounds familiar, you are not broken. You are not dramatic. You are not weak for having a mind that tries to predict pain before it arrives. In many cases, your brain learned to do this for a reason. It learned that guessing the worst might protect you from being surprised. It learned that scanning for danger might give you control. It learned that if you expect disappointment early enough, maybe it will hurt less when it comes. But what once felt like protection can slowly become a prison. So give this a few minutes. Because once you understand why your mind does this, the goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to stop letting fear write the ending before the story has even happened. What we're talking about is the psychology of assuming the worst, even when things are fine. Not because you want to suffer, not because you enjoy anxiety, but because your mind is trying to solve uncertainty with prediction. And later, this connects to something powerful. The same overthinking that exhausts you can be redirected into clarity, creativity, and emotional strength, not today as a motivational slogan, but as an actual psychological shift. But first, let's take this apart carefully. Because the question is not, why am I like this? The better question is, what did my brain learn to protect me from? Let's break this down in a way that makes your mind feel less mysterious. Number 1. Your brain confuses uncertainty with danger. This looks like needing an answer right now. Someone says, we need to talk, and your stomach drops. A friend takes longer than usual to reply, and you start reviewing every message you sent. Your boss looks serious, and suddenly your mind starts preparing for bad news. Here's what most people miss. The problem is not always the situation. The problem is the blank space around the situation. Your brain hates blank spaces. When there is missing information, your mind rushes to fill it in. And if you have learned that life can change quickly, or that people can become unpredictable, your brain may fill the blank with the worst possible explanation. Psychologists often call this catastrophizing. The mind jumps from a small unknown to a large threat. The cost is that your body reacts to an imagined future as if it is already real. You lose the present moment to a problem that may never happen. The small switch is this: when your brain says, something bad is happening, try changing it to, I am noticing uncertainty. That sentence matters. Because danger demands panic. But uncertainty allows patience. Wait, here's the strange part. Your brain can be completely sincere and still be completely wrong. Number 2. Assuming the worst gives you a fake sense of control. This looks like rehearsing conversations that have not happened yet. You imagine what they might say, then what you'll say back, then how they'll react, then what it means, then how you'll recover. To the outside world, you may look quiet, but inside, you are running a full emotional emergency drill. Why does this happen? Because prediction feels like preparation. If your brain can imagine every possible bad outcome, it feels like maybe you won't be caught off guard. Maybe you'll be ready. Maybe you'll hurt less. This can come from past experiences where you had to read the room carefully. Maybe you grew up around criticism, mood swings, emotional distance, or situations where small signals really did matter. Your nervous system learned to scan. And honestly, that scanning may have helped you at some point. But here is the cost. Your mind starts treating peace like irresponsibility. Calm feels suspicious. Rest feels unsafe. A normal day feels like the quiet before something bad. And that is exhausting. The switch is not to say, everything will be fine. Sometimes that feels too fake. A better switch is, I can handle information when it arrives. That reminds your brain that you do not need to suffer twice, once in imagination. and once in reality. And this is the first hint of something important. The mind that rehearses every disaster is also a mind with strong simulation power. Later, when used differently, that can become a strength instead of a trap. Number 3. Your brain may be trying to prevent emotional shock. This looks like lowering your expectations before anything happens. You tell yourself, they probably don't care. It probably won't work out. I'll probably mess it up. This good thing probably won't last. On the surface, this can look negative, but underneath, it is often a protection strategy. Your brain is saying, if I expect the worst, I won't be as disappointed. But here's the wild part. Expecting pain does not always make pain smaller. Sometimes it just makes joy disappear early. You don't fully enjoy the kind message, because you are waiting for the withdrawal. You don't enjoy the opportunity, because you are preparing for rejection. You don't enjoy the calm, because you are scanning for the catch. Why does this happen? Because the nervous system remembers emotional surprise. If disappointment, abandonment, embarrassment, or criticism hit you hard in the past, your mind may decide that hope is dangerous. So instead of letting hope rise naturally, it tries to crush it first. The cost is that you start confusing emotional numbness with wisdom. You may think, I'm just being realistic, but sometimes realism is not what you're practicing. Sometimes you are practicing pre-disappointment. The switch is small but powerful. Allow two truths at once. This might not go perfectly, and I can still let myself enjoy what is good right now. That is not naive. That is emotional balance. And around this point, notice something. Overthinking is not just a flaw. It is raw mental energy. The question is whether that energy is being used to punish you or to guide you. That is the bridge into the next video, where we'll talk about how this exact habit can be turned into something useful. If this kind of clarity helps, you'll probably like what we do here, because the whole point is to make your inner world easier to understand without making you feel broken for having one. Number 4. You mistake old patterns for current evidence. This looks like reacting strongly to something small. Someone's facial expression changes, and you feel rejected. Someone becomes quiet, and you feel unwanted. Someone gives short answers, and your mind says, here we go again. But the again is the clue. Sometimes your reaction is not only about what is happening now. It is about what your brain thinks this moment resembles. The mind is a pattern-making machine. It compares the present to the past constantly. That is useful when the pattern is accurate, but painful when the mind uses old emotional data in a new situation. Here's what most people miss. Your brain does not only remember events. It remembers emotional templates. A tone of voice. A pause. A shift in energy. A feeling of not knowing where you stand. And suddenly, your nervous system says, I know this place. Even if the person in front of you is not the person who hurt you. Even if the current situation is not the old situation. Even if nothing bad has actually happened. The cost is that your present relationships get filtered through past fear. You may ask for reassurance, but not absorb it. You may distance yourself before anyone leaves. You may become defensive before anyone attacks. The switch is to ask, what is the evidence from today? Not evidence from childhood. Not evidence from the last relationship. Not evidence from the worst thing that happened 3 years ago. Today. What did they actually say? What actually happened? What do I know for sure? This question brings your brain back from emotional memory into current reality. Wait. Here's the deeper part. Healing is not forgetting the old pattern. Healing is noticing when the old pattern is trying to run the new moment. Number 5. Your mind thinks worrying is responsible. This looks like feeling guilty when you are not overthinking. You might have a calm moment, then suddenly think, am I missing something? So you start worrying again. Because worrying feels like checking the locks. Your brain says, if I worry, I care. If I worry, I'm prepared. If I worry, I'm not being careless. But worry and responsibility are not the same thing. Responsibility asks, what can I do? Worry asks, what if everything goes wrong? Responsibility takes one useful step. Worry keeps opening new tabs in your mind until you cannot breathe freely. The cost is that your mental energy gets spent on imaginary labor. You feel like you did something because you suffered internally. But the real problem, if there even is one, still needs a calm decision. The switch is to separate signal from noise. Ask, is there an action here? If yes, take the smallest reasonable action. Send the message, check the detail, make the plan, ask the question. If no, then what you have is not a task. It is a fear loop. And fear loops do not need more analysis. They need grounding, time, and a return to the body. Try this sentence. Thinking about it more is not the same as solving it. That one line can save you hours. Because the goal is not to become someone who never imagines negative outcomes. That would be unrealistic. The goal is to become someone who can imagine an outcome without obeying it. That is the superpower hidden inside this pattern. Your mind is sensitive to signals. It sees possibilities quickly. It notices shifts. It prepares. It connects dots. But without training, that sensitivity becomes self-attack. With training, it becomes discernment. Imagine Maya. It's a Tuesday night, nothing special. She sends a message to a close friend. Are we still good for Saturday? 20 minutes pass, no reply. At first, Maya is fine. She puts her phone down. She makes tea. She tells herself people have lives. Then she checks again. Still nothing. And suddenly, the story begins. Maybe her friend is annoyed. Maybe Saturday is cancelled. Maybe Maya said something weird last week. Maybe the friendship has been fading and she was the last one to notice. Here's the strange part. Nothing has happened yet. Only silence. But Maya's body is already living inside rejection. She rereads old messages. She analyzes punctuation. She remembers one moment from last month when her friend seemed quieter than usual. Her brain builds a case. Then she catches herself. Not perfectly, not magically, but for 1 second, she pauses and says, I am noticing uncertainty, not proof. That sentence creates a tiny gap. So instead of sending 3 follow-up messages, she puts the phone down for 10 minutes. She names 3 facts. Fact 1. I sent a normal message. Fact 2. They have not replied yet. Fact 3. I do not know why. That is all. Not, they hate me. Not, I ruined it. Not, I'm too much. Just 3 facts. An hour later, the reply comes. Yes. Sorry, my phone was on silent. Saturday works. And Maya laughs a little. Not because the anxiety was silly, but because she can finally see the difference between a signal and a story. That is the skill. Not forcing yourself to never worry, but catching the moment when your mind starts turning missing information into emotional punishment. And this is why the next video matters so much, because once you can catch the pattern, the next step is learning how to use that same mental intensity as power instead of pressure. So here is the reframe. Assuming the worst does not mean you are negative. It often means your brain is trying to protect you with outdated tools. It is scanning, predicting, preparing, preventing shock. The work is not to shame the scanner. The work is to update it. Try this tiny action today. The next time your mind assumes the worst, write or say 3 lines. What do I fear is happening? What do I actually know? What is one balanced possibility? That's it. Not 10 steps. Not a full life transformation. Just 3 lines that separate fear from fact. Because your mind does not need to be bullied into peace. It needs to be guided back to reality. For the next 24 hours, catch one worst-case story before you react to it. Comment 1 word. Signal, if you're learning to separate signals from stories. And if this gave you language for something you've lived with for years, stay close to this channel. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because it connects directly to this, the psychology of turning overthinking into power. I'll meet you in the next video.